Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're going to be talking about Orange is the New Black.
Specifically, how one scene from the final season sparked a really fascinating academic discussion about how Latino women are portrayed in the media.
And it uses a specific scene to kind of break down some common stereotypes.
Yes.
And how the show uses them,
Yeah.
but also how it subverts them.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting is that it's this really heated argument between a mother and a daughter.
Okay.
And it reveals so much about how we can, or how media can both use and challenge stereotypes.
So set the scene for us.
Okay.
What episode are we talking about, and who are the characters involved?
So we're looking at season 7, episode 13, and it features Aleida and Daya Diaz.
Okay.
And they're a mother-daughter duo who are both serving time in Litchfield Penitentiary.
Gotcha.
Aleida, the mother, has been in and out of prison throughout the series, and she's known for her kind of fiery personality and her, questionable choices. And Daya, her daughter, initially enters prison as a very naive young woman.
Right.
But over the course of the series, she gets pulled deeper and deeper into the criminal world.
So there's already a lot of complexity in their relationship, even before this particular scene.
And that's what makes the academic paper we're looking at so interesting.
Okay.
It argues that this scene, while seemingly straightforward, actually plays with two common stereotypes about Latina women: the Bandido and the hot Latina.
I remember those stereotypes being, harmful for a number of reasons.
Absolutely.
But can you remind me what exactly those stereotypes are?
Yeah, so the Bandido stereotype paints Latino women as aggressive, criminal, even dangerous.
Right.
And this image often draws on racist and colonial narratives that associate Latin America with lawlessness and violence.
Okay.
The hot Latina stereotype, on the other hand, hypersexualizes Latino women, reducing them to objects of desire. And so both of these stereotypes are harmful because they really simplify and distort the lived experiences of Latino women and perpetuate prejudice and discrimination.
So how does this scene in Orange is the New Black fit into all of this?
So the paper argues that the show, particularly in this scene, uses these stereotypes, but with a twist.
Okay.
Daya, the daughter, embodies the Bandido archetype, but it's presented in a way that kind of makes us question our assumptions.
Okay.
She's running a drug operation from inside prison.
Wow.
And there's this one scene where she boasts that the family listens to me, I run this business now.
Oh, wow.
It's really chilling, but it also challenges the typical image of a Bandido.
Right.
Because we also see the vulnerability and the desperation that lie beneath her tough exterior.
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as it seems.
And what about Aleida? Does she fall into that hot Latina category?
In other scenes, absolutely. We often see her in revealing clothes, flirting with the guards, generally playing into that stereotype.
Right.
But here's the twist. In this particular scene, both Daya and Aleida are wearing those really drab prison uniforms. The show visually strips them of the typical markers that are associated with those stereotypes, and it forces us to focus on something much deeper, which is their raw emotions and the complexities of their relationship.
That's such an interesting observation, because it's like the show is acknowledging these stereotypes exist.
Yes.
But then saying, okay, let's take all those superficial cues away and see what's really going on here.
Exactly. And the paper goes even further to analyze the camera work in this scene.
Oh, wow.
To show how it reinforces a subversion of expectations.
Okay.
There are a lot of close-up shots on Daya and Aleida's faces, highlighting their anger, their pain, their love for each other, even amidst all of their disagreements.
Yeah.
And the camera is deliberately drawing our attention to their internal struggles rather than their physical appearances.
So it's like the filmmakers are using the camera to say, look beyond the stereotypes.
Right.
See these women as individuals with complex emotions and motivations.
Yep. Yes, and I think that's where the real power of this scene lies.
Yeah.
It's not just simply saying stereotypes are bad, which we already know.
Right.
It's acknowledging the existence of these stereotypes, but then using them to spark a deeper conversation about identity, about family, about the challenges that are faced by women of color in a system that often tries to define them in very narrow, in limiting ways.
Right. And so much of what we see in media is very surface level.
Exactly.
So to dig deeper like this is really helpful in understanding these issues.
And what's really interesting too is that this scene subverts that traditional power dynamic that we often see associated with these stereotypes.
Okay, I'm curious what you mean by that.
So think about that Bandido stereotype.
Okay.
It's often associated with a kind of hypermasculinity, with a sense of aggression and dominance.
Right.
But in this scene, it's Daya, the daughter, who embodies that Bandido energy.
Okay.
She's the one calling the shots, running the show from behind bars. And Aleida, who we might see in other scenes kind of leaning into that more feminine, hot Latina trope.
Right.
She's actually the one trying to rein Daya in to get her to think about the consequences of her actions.
So it's almost like they've flipped the script on those traditional gender roles
Exactly.
that are so often baked into these stereotypes.
And that adds another layer of complexity to the scene.
Yeah.
It makes us think about how these stereotypes are not only about race and ethnicity, but also about gender and power.
It's true, and it makes me think about all the times I've seen these stereotypes play out in other TV shows and movies.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've been conditioned to expect certain things from Latina characters.
You're absolutely right. These stereotypes are so pervasive in the media that they can become almost invisible.
Yeah.
We might not even realize how they're shaping our perceptions of Latino women.
So how can we as viewers become more aware of these subtle forms of representation?
Well, I think it starts with being more critical of what we see on screen, asking ourselves questions like, what are the dominant narratives being presented about Latino women?
Right.
How are these women being portrayed visually?
Yeah.
What are they wearing? How are they interacting with other characters? And then most importantly, whose voices are being amplified and whose voices are being silenced?
So it sounds like it's not just about identifying stereotypes, but also about looking for those moments where a show might be subverting or challenging those stereotypes.
Yes, and I think Orange is the New Black does a really interesting job of that, especially in this scene.
Right.
It's not shying away from the fact that these stereotypes exist, but it's using them to spark a deeper conversation about identity and representation.
And that's what makes this kind of analysis so valuable, because it's not about, just pointing fingers or saying, oh, this show is bad because it uses stereotypes.
Yeah.
It's about having a more nuanced and critical conversation
Right.
about how media shapes our understanding of the world.
And ultimately, I think it's about encouraging viewers to be more active participants in that conversation.
Okay.
To watch media with a critical eye and to question the narratives that are being presented to us.
This scene from Orange is the New Black really highlights how even a show that seems to be playing into stereotypes on the surface can also be doing something much more subversive and thought-provoking.
It's a great reminder that media can be both a reflection of society's biases and a tool for challenging those biases.
It's like the show is saying, hey, we know these stereotypes exist, but let's take a closer look.
Yeah.
Let's see the humanity behind the labels.
And by doing so, it invites us to do the same in our own lives.
Yeah.
To look beyond the surface and to recognize the complexity of individual experiences.
Right.
Remember that people are never just one thing, and that their stories are always worth exploring with empathy and an open mind.
Wow. It's amazing how much you can unpack from just one scene,
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder what other layers of meaning are kind of hiding in plain sight in the shows we watch every day.
Yeah. It's like a reminder to always be watching with a critical eye,
Right.
I know I'm going to be thinking about this next time I watch a show or a movie.
Totally. And you start to realize how these stereotypes, even when they're being challenged,
Yeah.
they have a way of kind of sneaking into our subconscious
Right.
and influencing how we view the world.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to have these conversations.
Yeah.
To break down these stereotypes and to really examine where they come from and what impact they have.
So what's the biggest takeaway you hope our listener walks away with today?
I think the key takeaway here is the importance of media literacy.
Okay.
Whether we're watching a TV show, scrolling through social media, or reading a news article,
Right.
we need to be aware of the messages we're consuming and how they might be shaping our understanding of the world.
So that means not just passively absorbing information, but like actively questioning it.
Exactly. Asking ourselves who created this content, what are their biases, and what perspectives might be missing from this story.
It's almost like becoming a detective,
Yeah.
looking for clues and piecing together the bigger picture.
I love that analogy because that's exactly what we're doing when we analyze media critically.
Yeah.
We're looking for those subtle cues, those underlying messages that can reveal a lot about how our society thinks and operates.
This deep dive has been such a great reminder that there's always more to learn, even from the things that we think we know well.
Absolutely. And it's a journey we can all take together.
Yeah.
By being more aware of the media we consume and by engaging in thoughtful conversations about representation and stereotypes, we can create a more inclusive and understanding world.
So to our listener, the next time you settle in for a movie night or binge watch your favorite show,
Yeah.
Remember that there's always more than meets the eye. Keep those critical thinking caps on, and keep exploring the deeper layers of meaning that are all around us.
Happy viewing.
Happy viewing.